restoring the original movement of the soul. What remains when the identity you built around the wound falls away? What if healing your deepest wound doesn't simply make you feel better? What if it begins to dismantle the person you thought you were? This is something I find particularly fascinating in Primordial Wound work, because when we restore the original movement of the soul, we are not simply removing a wound. We begin to encounter everything that was built around that wound, and sometimes that is an entire identity. We think, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I want, these are my relationships, this is how life works, this is what is possible for me. But how much of that actually came from our original nature, and how much was constructed in response to something we never wanted to feel again? When something wounds us deeply, we don't simply carry the pain. We adapt. We begin organizing ourselves around making sure that the same experience never happens again. And this can happen at many levels. We develop beliefs, behaviors. We learn what is safe and what isn't. We decide what kind of people and souls we can trust. We decide how visible we can be, how much we can receive, how deeply we can love, how much of ourselves we can show. We may become independent because needing somebody hurts too much. We may become endlessly helpful because being needed gives us a sense of safety. We must stop asking for what we truly want because wanting itself became associated with disappointment. We may control because surrender once felt dangerous. We may remain small because being fully visible once carried consequences, and after enough time, we no longer experience these things as survival mechanisms. We experience them as our personality, as our soul's personality, our soul's identity. We say, that's just who I am, but perhaps it isn't. Perhaps it's who you became around something you could not yet integrate. Because the further we move from the wound, the further we can move from ourselves, and this is where I see alienation begin. And by alienation, I mean something very simple. We become increasingly estranged from our own original movement. The wound is somewhere underneath. Around it comes protection. Around the protection comes behavior. Around the behavior comes beliefs and explanations. And eventually an entire life can be constructed around those layers. The strange thing is that the original wound may no longer even be conscious. We only experience the life that was built to avoid it. And because the protection once served a purpose, we can become extremely good at maintaining that life. We can even be successful within it. We can build careers around it, relationships, a social identity around it. We can acquire enormous amounts of knowledge that confirm the way we have learned to see ourselves and the world. We can surround ourselves with people who fit that identity. And yet something underneath remains unnourished. There can be a very subtle feeling. This is my life, but somehow it doesn't completely feel like me. So not everything we carry is originally ours. There is another layer to this. Our identity isn't formed only through our own direct experiences, because we absorb. We absorb from our parents, from school, culture, relationships, communities, spiritual teachings, from the people we admire. We acquire ideas about what love is, what success is, what a good person does, what a woman or man should be, what spirituality should look like, what we should desire, and even what we should believe about ourselves. Some of this knowledge is useful, some of it becomes wisdom, but really some of it is simply adopted. Many of it is simply adopted. Much of it is simply adopted. It entered from outside and became so familiar that we stopped recognizing it as external. And this is why going back toward the original movement of the soul can become so confronting. Because we begin to discover the difference between what I know and what I actually know from within, between what I was thought to want and what deeply nourishes me, between who I learned to be and what moves naturally when I stop protecting myself. And that difference can be enormous. Survival in that way can become an identity, and this is why I don't see survival mechanisms as something bad. They were intelligent. They were created for a reason. If some part of us experienced something as unbearable, it found a way to make sure we would never have to experience it in exactly the same way again. The problem comes when the protection continues long after the original situation is gone, and then life can slowly become organized around avoiding pain rather than moving toward life. These are two completely different movements. One asks, how do I make sure this never happens to me again? The other asks, what do I actually want to experience? One is organized around the past. The other can finally move toward the future. And I think many people underestimate how deeply survival can shape even the things they believe they want. We can choose relationships because they feel familiar to the protection. We can choose work that keeps us safe but doesn't nourish us. We can keep people close because they confirm the identity we have built. We can pursue things for years and eventually discover, I don't even know whether I ever wanted this. And this is where healing can become disorienting. When the old identity begins to fall away, when we begin touching the primordial wound and restoring that original movement underneath, something unexpected can happen. We may initially think, I'm going to become more myself, and we do, but sometimes the first experience is almost the opposite. We don't know anymore who we are. Things that used to matter suddenly don't. Certain relationships change. Some people may move away. Things we were certain we wanted lose their attraction, and the way we presented ourselves may no longer feel right. Even some of our beliefs can suddenly feel strangely empty. And this can be frightening because we think, what is happening to my life? But perhaps nothing has gone wrong. Perhaps we are beginning to see how much of the old life was organized around the identity that formed around the wound. If the protection is no longer necessary, then everything that depended upon that protection may also begin to reorganize. Who am I without it? Then comes a very profound moment. Who am I if I am no longer the person I had to become? That question is very different from who do I want to become, because I don't necessarily believe we have to construct another identity. That could simply become another layer. I am much more interested in what happens when we stop constructing. For a moment, maybe forever. When the old movement of protection quiets down, what moves naturally? What feels deeply nourishing? What gives a sense of inner satisfaction that doesn't depend upon approval, achievement, or recognition? Who are you drawn toward? What do you want to create? How do you want to live? What does your body say yes to? Not because you should, and not because it fits your identity, and not because somebody taught you that this is what an evolved, successful, or a good person does, but because something within you genuinely moves toward it. For me, this is where we begin approaching the original movement of the soul. Restoration is not going back. And when I speak about restoring that original movement, I don't mean returning to some previous version of ourselves. We cannot erase everything we have lived, nor should we. Our experiences has given us consciousness, discernment, and depth. So restoration is not pure regression. It's allowing the original movement to come forward again, with everything we have now become conscious of, which is our core, which is who we always were. So perhaps you once had enormous openness. The answer isn't to become indiscriminately open again. It is openness with discernment. And perhaps you had tremendous sensitivity. And the answer isn't to return to the sensitivity without boundaries. It is sensitivity with structure. And perhaps you had an enormous capacity to love. And the answer isn't to give yourself away again. It is love without self-abandonment. The original movement returns, but now it can move with consciousness. And so we move from alienation to nourishment. And this, ultimately, is why I believe going to the primordial wound matters. Because if we never reach the original wound, we can spend an entire life managing the structures that formed around it. We improve them, we understand them, we learn to function better within them, but we may still be moving further and further away from ourselves. And eventually, the question isn't only, am I functioning? It becomes, does my life actually nourish me? Does my relationships nourish me? Does my work nourishes me? Does the way I live nourish me? Do I recognize myself in the life I have created? This is a very deep form of satisfaction, of fulfillment that comes when our outer life begins to correspond again with our inner movement. Not because everything should become perfect, but there is less distance between who we are, what we feel, what we choose, and how we live. For me, that's one of the deepest movements of healing. Not endlessly repairing ourselves, not constructing a better identity, but slowly releasing everything we no longer need in order to avoid ourselves, and allowing the original movement of the soul to become present again. And perhaps that is why deep healing can initially feel like losing ourselves, but in a way you are. You are losing the self that was built around never having to feel the wound again. And underneath it, there may be something much quieter, much simpler, something that doesn't need to convince you who you are. It just moves. And perhaps that is where we finally stop surviving ourselves and begin living from ourselves. If you recognize this, if you have done a great deal of inner work, but still feel that something underneath your patterns has never truly shifted, this is the depth I explore in my work. Not only what happened to you, but what formed around it, what became separate from your original movement, and what may become possible when that movement is restored. You'll find information about private sessions and my enlightenment modules like Venus Light Technology below. I am Sabrina Dinito, founder of Enlightenment Codes. Are you ready to journey to the very origins of your being? Visit enlightenmentcodes.com.